application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. Screen sharing will not be permitted unless absolutely necessary, and all votes will be taken by roll call vote. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the May 19th, 2021 NRC meeting. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Judy?
Judy Sonnenbrecher.
Greg?
Greg Higgins.
Nick?
Nick Pappas.
Thank you, guys. We've got a set of meeting from March 17th, 2021 meeting minutes to approve. I had sent in just an observation to Karen earlier. Any other comments?
No.
I sent an amendment in that was, just a clarifying statement, but I don't think it's need to be brought up.
Okay. And Nick, you sent something in as well?
Yes, something minor, typo.
Okay. Very good.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Nick. And the vote, Judy?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Delia, something for the director's update?
Hi, yes, thank you. Just a couple of things to update you on. The art ramble that is put on by the Musketequid umbrella is underway. There are 5 installations on conservation land, one at Haywood Meadow, one at Ford Park, which is the corner of Walden Street and Haywood Street, one at Chamberlain Park, and 2 at Millbrook Way along the Reformatory branch, and those will be up until June 1st. I hope that people have had a chance to see those. They look really good. I'm excited about that. So the public hearings for warrant articles are underway. Tomorrow night, the CPC projects will be reviewed at the public hearing. As you all know, this is the opportunity for the public to comment on these projects. So I'll be obviously in attendance for the natural resources warrant articles for CPC. Just wanted to put that out there if you have interest, if you have time to come and support those CPC projects. Haywood benches, we're going to have a facelift at Haywood Meadow. There are some teak benches that are 3 teak benches that a resident, Michael Sprague, had offered to take over to refinish those. It was originally going to be a Boy Scout project. It turned out to be a little bit more than that. But he and his father-in-law have sanded those benches down and applied a marine spar varnish to them, and they look really, really snazzy. So keep an eye out. They'll be in the meadow this Friday. We plan to install those, and so it's a little facelift for the meadow. So that'll be really nice. A couple other things. The garlic mustard poll is underway. So this is the 2nd year. We didn't do it last year, but in 2019, we partnered with the Land Trust to do a town-wide garlic mustard poll from town lands and land trust properties. It will be mid-May through the end of May. You'll see some signs around town just asking people to contact Karen at the office to sign up for a route and to pick up bags. People can either drop those bags off at the landfill themselves, or we'll schedule our new land manager, Will, to collect those bags at the end of May. Also in May, Public Works is doing the drop-off swap-off. That will be on May 15th. Sorry, so it's just a drop-off. There is no swap-off this year. So May 15th is the drop-off that Saturday, and that information is available on the Public Works website. 2 kind of cool things, natural resources related. Loons returned for the 2nd year to Walden Pond. Last year's, we know there was a breeding pair in southeastern Mass, which is one of the first records in a long time in this part of Massachusetts. Peter Alden is working with the state to see if they can install some sort of nesting platforms at Walden Pond. I'm not sure how that is coming along, but he did announce that at the Conservation Coffee yesterday. And a resident at White Pond emailed me a couple of nights ago a video of two loons chasing each other across White Pond. So different behavior. It's a territorial behavior when they're chasing each other, but they're setting up, you know, they would like to set up there as well. So kind of a cool thing. And the bald eagle that nested for the first time last year in Concord at Fairhaven Bay is back in the same vicinity at Fairhaven, also on a nest this year. And that's all.
Thank you, Delia.
You bet.
Good news on the bird front. I think we have 4 continuances this evening. If I could have a motion for those 4.
I make a motion.
Please go, Jude.
Oh, okay. I make a motion to continue to May 19th, following, without discussion, the following notice of intent. DEP file 1371559, that's for 90Y Plainfield Road. DEP file 1371504, which is for 43 Old Bedford Road. DEP file 1371556, which is 299 Estabrook Road. And amended notice of intent for 399 Lowell Road, DEP file 1371546.
Second.
Thanks, Greg. And the vote, Nick,
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and Amaya as well. Thank you all. So we'll go to One Revolutionary Road, DEP file number 137-1560, a continuance this evening. And who will be speaking on behalf of the applicant?
I will. Sorry, I'm just turning my video on here.
Thank you.
There we go. Hello, everybody. Inga Daniels. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Elizabeth Nye. So we have resubmitted the plans in the attempt to address some of the questions that the commission had at our last meeting. Should I just go through those questions? Let me see, just from this plan, there was a question regarding lighting. And if you scroll up slightly, you can see the lighting that's proposed is on the left-hand side is the lighting key. So we have lights on all the deck steps for safety. Those are downward facing, low voltage or dimmable hardscape lights. And then just a single dark sky compliant sconce on the back of the house.
Okay.
And then I don't know if there are any questions on regarding that. Otherwise, the other questions are addressed on the second plan.
I apologize, Inga, I don't have your second plan up.
Ooh, okay,
So if you want to just speak to those changes.
I can do that, or I can share screen, whatever the commission prefers.
Yep, hold on one second.
Okay, so you should be seeing that now. So we were asked to delineate where we are finding invasive species. I realize there are a number of different colors and hatches and lines going on here, so I'll try to clarify those. The red, this pattern effectively is showing the invasive removal areas, which is not to say that those entire areas are covered in invasives, but those are where we spotted them. This area does show probably a pretty full extent, and that is multiflora rose. There's buckthorn in these spots and throughout this area, as well as oriental bittersweet and some burning bush. But it is not heavily, there's not a heavy presence of invasives. We simultaneously were looking for poison ivy, and we were at this point in the spring, we were unable to spot any, certainly no mature vines. So should there be any, we would, if they were near the path, we could address it, but there does not seem to be certainly the big problem with that either. And then we more clearly identified the shrub areas, and that is that we're seeing in this pattern, this green hatch. And in calculating it, more precisely in CAD versus using a scale rule on the plan, we actually came up with a greater square footage, and that's 590 square feet of shrub planting area. For the rest, there was another questions about how we will be protecting the native species that are going to be in the active construction zone. And we have a note, we've added a note here. The contractor will be hand digging and setting aside for transplanting native shrubs and perennials that would otherwise be destroyed. And those include blueberry, low bush blueberry, goldenrod, wood aster, aralia, and ferns, and Canada mayflower. I'm just trying to see if there are any other questions that we are asked to address. We adjusted the white pine sapling areas so that it was very clearly outside of the 25-foot no disturb zone. Were there any other questions?
From what I can see in terms of the notes, it seems like that captures the questions that were raised last time.
Great.
Great. Ed, could I ask a question?
Of course, sure.
Inga, can you stop sharing your screen?
Yeah.
Thanks. So I just, this is a question that when we went down and looked at this wetland boundary for the first RDA, so I apologize, I'm just remembering this now. This is the edge of the pond, essentially, edge of the wetlands. There, I think from the prior homeowner, there are some trees that have lights strapped to them that are projected onto the pond. Are those active lights?
I don't believe so.
Okay, could those be removed?
Those could be removed. I will check that with the owner. I don't believe they're active. Let's see. So,
Commission, do you want to consider making that an additional condition on this to have those lights removed? I know that the Commission is ready to issue the permit tonight. You may not have had the opportunity to speak with your client, Inga, about this, but there's no benefit to the wetlands and the wildlife to have this pond be lighted.
No, understood.
I would think that would make sense, Delia, if the homeowner was willing to remove those lights, that would be a benefit.
I don't expect
That
that
makes
would be a problem with the homeowner, but I can certainly check that.
So, right, I mean, we wouldn't want to put a condition in that's going to be problematic for the
Right.
homeowner without discussion. So I think what I would recommend, if the Commission is ready to issue on this, is to include that as an additional condition, subject to discussion with the homeowner. And if they are not comfortable with that, Inga, then it comes back to the hearing on May 19th for discussion.
That seems reasonable. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, any other comments from the commissioners? Okay. Any comment from the public regarding this application? All right, hearing none, so we'll continue this to May 19th, give you time to talk to the homeowners about that condition that was just raised this evening, and we'll meet back on the 19th.
Or what, or was it that it was, we were going to, only if there were a concern, right?
That's what I thought,
Right. So,
that we would issue it with an additional special condition, correct?
correct.
Oh, you want to add that condition this evening?
Yeah, I think that's what you wanted to
Okay,
do.
sorry,
and get it out.
I misinterpreted that. That's fine. Okay, I think with that, then we could have a motion for that, for the order of conditions.
I make a motion that we issue and, we close and issue an order of conditions for, just a second here, let me get DEP file 1371560, 1 Revolutionary Road, with standard conditions 1 through 20 and special conditions 21 through 59, with the 59th condition being removal of the lights, 2 lights on the trees close to the pond, and that the owner will, the owner will confirm that's okay. If not, they will come back to the commission as to removing that condition.
Second,
Thank you, Judy. Thanks, Greg. And we'll take the vote. Nick,
Aye.
Greg,
aye.
Judy,
Aye.
and I am I as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
New applications. First one up, notice of intent, 455 Bedford Street, DEP file number 137-1561. Let's see.
Oh dear.
And is Kristen first?
Yes, Kristen.
Good evening.
First. Hi. That wasn't the drawing.
Hi, Kristen. I'm sorry. I closed yours mistakenly.
That's
Let me
okay.
just open it and you can go ahead and start
Okay.
introducing the project.
All right. My name's Kristen First. I'm a landscape designer, and I'm speaking on behalf of the owner of 455 Bedford Street, Stacy Mock. The purpose of this project is the construction of a new pool and patio. It will also involve the removal of invasive species adjacent to the wetland, replanting the area with native plants, and establishing a more robust planted buffer between within the 25 and 50-foot no-build zone. The majority of this property lies within the 100-foot buffer zone, identified by the bordering vegetated wetland boundary. The wetland, which is town of Concord land, was recently delineated by David Burke, and it is predominantly a cattail marsh. The adjacent wetland is also listed as an estimated priority habitat of rare and endangered species, but this designation stops at the property line. We did explore several alternatives for locating a pool. We were limited by setbacks, 15-foot setback on the side and a 20-foot setback in front. There is an existing septic system in the front of the house. So the 2 areas we were looking at for locating the pool both involved some impact of the 50-foot no-build zone. So we're looking at this project as a replacement and reduction of existing site interventions in the 50-foot no-build zone. So what you're not seeing here on this plan is the existing conditions on the site, but can you see my cursor at all, Delia, or no?
If you want to share, go ahead, Kristen. So you'll have to open if it's open on your screen, then you can share it.
Okay, not that one. Sorry. Okay, what I'll do, I'm just going to share sort of an existing conditions drawing. See if this will work. Sorry, I'm not as familiar with this.
I can pull that up for you.
There, I have this. Share. Okay. These are sort of the three areas we looked at. Our initial proposal to you was looking at this area over here, but now as we're presenting, we're looking at this area here as the preferred alternative. But as you can see, both of these do lie within, a portion of it lies within the 50-foot zone, but there's an existing driveway here that is quite large. So now we can go back and look at your drawing. Okay. So we've located this here. The pool sits exactly at the 20-foot setback. And just a corner of the pool lies, the patio lies within the 50-foot no build zone. With this proposal, there is a reduction of 175 square feet of impervious material because we've reduced the size of the driveway significantly. Previously, we're removing about 766 square feet of driveway in the no build zone, and we're replacing that with the new driveway and that corner of the pool, which occupies 615 square feet. So that's a reduction of 175 square feet in the no build zone. And then we're significantly reducing the size of the driveway in the 50 to 100 foot area. And then the pool lies within that area. Another thing to consider is that the structure of the pool itself lies outside of the 50-foot no build zone. Although this plan does involve a reduction in impervious material, we are still proposing an extensive mitigation plan. Currently, the lawn, this is all lawn here, rolls right up until the top of the bank of the, right into the 25-foot no build zone. And so we're proposing removal of an invasive species along there, which includes barberry, winged euonymus, multiflora rose, a buckthorn, and a large patch of Japanese knotweed. Removing a section of the lawn along the top of that bank as well, planting with native plants, shrubs, and ground covers. And additionally, all along here, which lies within the 100-foot buffer zone, we're planting an extensive buffer of large trees and shrubs, the preponderance of which are native species. We recognize that at this point, this plan is schematic, but we're looking for your guidance and your response to it before we go further.
Thank you, Kristen. I guess just I'll kick it off a little bit just by looking at the plan. A couple of questions. One, it seems like the driveway is, at least seems very wide. I can't tell the exact dimension, but drives 12 feet, 14 feet, something to that effect. But this seems like it's maybe 20 to 24 feet wide. So that's, again, a question I have. If you skinny it up, perhaps you make a little bit more room for the pool side and that, and then just another observation. Again, appreciate you having a net reduction in the overall plan, but as the pool is placed, is there any thought of perhaps flipping the deck a little bit? If you were to flip that deck, over, perhaps from left to right, getting the majority of the deck outside the 50 and having that thin portion of the deck remain as a walk around. It may relieve the necessity for those kind of great, I think those are steps or something.
Those are grass steps to accommodate the grade change.
Yeah, if that might relieve that, because it doesn't seem like that slope is overly significant at that edge. But just observationally, it seems like it's a very large driveway, and perhaps we could do better by, repositioning that deck outside the 50 or the majority of it anyway.
The driveway is, so Bedford Road or Bedford Street, as you know, is a busy road. And backing up onto Bedford Road, especially as this house has a large fence in front of it, and we'll need that to provide privacy if we locate the pool there. The idea was to allow people to be able to pull in, turn around and come out. And also there's no parking really on Bedford Street there either. So that was to allow, visitors and guests to be able to park there and then turn around without backing up. So that it is 20 feet wide. The existing driveway is about, I think the existing one is 16 feet wide, believe it or not. So this is wider, but it's a lot shorter. But I could absolutely look at that.
And any thought about the deck and perhaps trying to reposition the majority of that outside the 50? Around the pool?
So that corner in the, just to be clear, is, I think I have it, it's a very small area. It's, I wish I had, it's 150 square feet total, including the steps and everything. And we are removing a very large area of driveway in that area.
Okay.
I mean, so that's why we're just hoping that you would consider that.
Okay. Yeah. And perhaps if you can take a look at that again,
Okay.
just a discussion this evening in terms of just perspective. That's all.
Okay.
Just what
I mean, is that a, so would you like further study of that, or how would we proceed?
Yeah, I think if you wouldn't mind taking a look at that and seeing, again, what, the best we can do is to try to strive to keep as much as we can out of the 50 in the end. And it seems like there's some room, towards the drive area, but again, you've got a better sense of it. But if you could take a look at that, I think that would be appreciated.
Okay, I would be happy to do that.
Thank you. Just trying to minimize the incursion into the 50 when we have the ability to do so.
Yes.
Any other perspectives from the commission?
I would like to see the distance, currently the nearest point to a structure, the corner of the building that's nearest to what that dimension is, and what it would be on the pool in terms of, just to put that on the plan to verify that the pool is not closer to the wetland than a current. That's problematic, Kristen, if it is.
Yeah.
I don't
it's-
think,
it's
and
you
looking
can-
at it, I don't have it in front of me right now, but when I
Yeah.
looked at it online, it didn't look like there's a problem to that, but we usually ask that you just put the distance directly to
Right.
the wetlands and say, oh, it's 38 feet, and the nearest point currently is 27, therefore you're
Right.
not going closer, and it's verified on the plan without having
Right.
to.
Right. It's actually, and I had that on my previous presentation to you, just to, it's easy to see on the plan that the corner of the house is extending into the 50-foot no build zone, and the pool itself is not, the structure of the pool is not within the 50-foot no build zone, if that's what you're talking about, the structure as opposed to the paving, or are you talking about the paving?
I'm talking about the paving.
Right. So it's a little different, Kristen, with the building department sees the pool as the edge of water, right, for zoning
Okay.
setbacks, but the NRC sees any earthwork as that extent of earthwork. So the patio, limit of patio is going to be the extent that is the closest encroachment.
Okay, so we have a permitted patio on the back, Delia, that does encroach further than this. So that's what we need to identify on the plan.
So there's a permitted and an unpermitted patio.
Right. Right, okay.
And the commission has been in discussion to sort of clarify what the closest point of structure, what that means. And, you know, anybody jump in, commission, as to what that means to you, but what my understanding is that it means it is, you know, the closest point of a house or driveway or deck.
Okay.
But not patio.
But not.
So a few meetings ago, there was
Driveway.
a few meetings ago, and this was related to a discussion about what gets a building permit.
Mhm.
Not that a driveway gets a building permit, but we, you know, obviously approve those and people know to come and ask the commission about those. But patio was not part of that discussion. So I think that's a fair point of discussion for you to have with the commission. That patio was approved under an order that was issued in 2004, 2007, whatever that was. And
There's also an existing driveway.
Mhm.
And
so,
that.
so I would
yeah.
suggest putting all of those setbacks
Okay.
on. I think that
Okay.
will help the next discussion, just to sort of be able to look at what is the closest point of each of these features. I mean, we want to get you to where
Right.
your client wants to be. It is a tight site.
Yes.
So, you know, whether or not this works here to put a pool in is a question, but I think there's probably a little bit more information that the commission might need.
Okay.
A question that I have that, you know, just as far as putting a pool on this property. So the commission wants to have these dewatered outside the 50-foot no build zone. How are you going to dewater this when you need to change out the liner or, you know, something? Where will that water go?
So I did talk to the contractor about it so I could understand it. This will be a gunite pool, and they said that they no longer recommend draining pools, that is not a standard practice at all. And that you just reduce it by, 4 inches or 6 inches at the most a year. And that would be something that could easily be accommodated by with a hose, in front of the house over in that southwest corner of the house on the lawn. But it's not a significant volume. They don't recommend that anymore for newer pools. They were
Until you need
actually
to do
surprised when
repairs,
I
though.
asked that.
Right.
Excuse me?
But until you need to do repairs.
Right.
And then you need to get that volume of water out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a question, Kristen. We're
Okay.
not asking you to
Right.
have an
Okay,
answer
yeah.
right now, but just
Okay.
to, have that, to think about that.
Okay.
I have a question about there's 2 patios, one which was in the approved plan from 2007 and another patio that was not part of that plan.
Right.
How do we, and it looks like part of it is within the 50-foot no build zone, certainly within wetlands jurisdiction. How do we think about that? Is that something that could be considered to be reduced or removed, reduced outside of the 50-foot?
We throw the plan up, please.
Sorry. Yep.
I think
Here it is. So it's this patio here, roughly. roughly sketched in this location, and here's the 50. And this is the approved patio in this location.
Mhm.
So I guess another question to discuss with the homeowners.
So you,
What is the
you would,
question?
what is the question?
There's a patio, one patio was part of the approved plan, but now there's another patio that is within the jurisdiction, and specifically, it looks like about half of it is within the 50-foot no-build zone, which does not have a permit, did not have a permit from the NRC to put in place. So my question is how do we think and deal with that? Is it, would the homeowner consider reshaping that patio to get that portion out of the 50? And I guess just in general, from a NRC standpoint, with an item that's not in compliance, I believe that's correct. How do we think about that?
Well, the question is it a violation?
Yes, I guess so. Yeah. An unimproved improvement.
Mhm.
No, I mean, I believe this patio and Stacy Mock, I think you're the homeowner, correct?
I am.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi.
So you know, I don't think we would view this as a violation necessarily, because it's something that, was this put in by you or the prior homeowner?
The prior homeowner.
That's what I thought. So,
Yeah.
you know, when a property changes hands, and especially for something like a patio, I would, if it was something larger scale, and it was done by the current homeowner, then I think that's more of a discussion on whether or not it's a violation.
Yeah, I guess why I called it non-compliant. I didn't want to go as far as to say violation.
So Delia, so from that perspective, it's a pre-existing condition at this point.
It is a pre-existing condition, but it shouldn't be something that should be used as a point to draw any.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, is it
Inferences.
considered impervious or is it impervious?
It's,
And that's so, and then I think, Kristen, I think that's a question from the standpoint of the commission, and we've been talking about this from the 50-foot no build policy that
Yeah.
should be on the agenda for the next meeting. But that is a question that the commission has been sort of.
Well, I mean, it speaks to
Right.
the issue of the driveway reduction. Do you have to account for the patio in terms
That's
of
right.
weighing that?
Right.
That, okay, we'll let you keep the patio, but you can't use all the driveway reduction toward the pool because, I'm not advocating, I'm just thinking it and talking out loud here.
Right.
I think it's not fair to have the current owner take the patio out. That's my feeling, but just to speak out loud on that. But I think it would be awfully nice if the deck around the pool could somehow be pulled out of the 50, and I think that would.
I mean, I'm just throwing this out without consulting the owner. If there were a reduction in the size of that patio in that back corner, would that be looked on favorably in terms of?
I would think so if it's coming out of the 50,
Yeah.
same net effect.
I think you'd be able to add that to your driveway, maybe, in terms of your argument. Is that what
Right.
you're driving at, Kristen?
Excuse me?
Is that what you're driving at? Is that you would add
Yeah.
that to?
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Okay.
What is the reason? Where are the pool equipment and all that sort of stuff going? What's the history on that?
So this is something I have not, we're waiting for guidance, from you first. It is challenging to locate you know, ideally we'd locate it here outside of the 100-foot zone, somewhere here.
So
There's
we
some
don't see
grading-
your
can't see
mouse,
here.
Kristen.
Oh,
tell
I'm
me what-
sorry.
That's okay.
On the south west corner of the house, there's some air conditioning units. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
somehow
Yes,
we
yes.
locate it there.
Mhm.
There is an issue with grading that's at a higher elevation than the proposed pool elevation. So that's something I have to talk to contractors about and see if that's possible to locate it there. But that's something that I need to explore, but I first want to.
And is that from a building standpoint, that has to be out of the buffer around the setbacks? It can't be
Yes,
in the
it has to
setbacks,
be
correct.
outside of the setback, yes.
Right.
Okay. Were you planning to put lighting around the swim pool?
We have not gotten that far, but I assume we would probably have some low path lights that would allow people to access the pool, and there would probably be lights in the pool. But I don't imagine that this will be, you know, with a lot of illumination. It'll just be, you know, if the homeowner wants to hang something up, they could do that occasionally, but I don't envision a large illumination out there at night.
Okay, and you heard the previous discussion around the type of lighting that we prefer.
Yes.
Also would be
Yeah.
good to include.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Kristen,
have-
anything else from your end?
No, I have some work to do, and I will have something to you soon.
Okay.
So
Well,
thank
let me-
you
let
very
me go out
much.
to- Let me just go out, since you have nothing further to present, I just want to go out to the public to see if there's any public comment on the discussion to date. So any public comment? Okay.
So Ed, can I just ask,
Yes.
Kristen, when you resubmit, you know, so the mitigation for whatever is in the 50, I think you're still going to end up with a reduction in the impervious. So that's great. Any other buffer zone work is a 1-to-1 mitigation requirement. So make sure that you show us in terms of the proposed mitigation, give us a square footage for what that area looks like. And your planting plan, just make sure it has, you know, the on-center spacing so that we can confirm that that is adequate.
Okay.
1-to-1 mitigation in the outer buffer zone.
In the 100-foot, it is 1-to-1. 50 is 3-to-1.
10-to-1. It's
10 to
10-to-1. But if you're reducing the impervious, then I think you know, correct me, commissioners, if you interpret this differently, but the way that we have applied this in the past is if you have a reduction in the 50-foot no build zone in terms of impervious, you've accomplished your mitigation.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Currently, okay, I will do that. I mean, our current proposal is about 1,200 square feet, but I can do that with circles to verify that for you.
We just need the square footage.
Yes.
So we can confirm that the numbers work. Yep, great.
Okay.
And
Happy to
I
do
can
that.
follow up with you offline if that's helpful.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you very
You bet.
much.
Yep.
So Kristen, continuing out to the June 2nd meeting, probably makes
Um,
no sense with the homework? or-
Yeah, that gives me time to
Sure.
work on this. That would be great. June 2nd.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, next hearing, request for determination of applicability, 513 Strawberry Hill Road, RDA file number 21-7. Who's here this evening to speak for the applicant?
Jeff Davis,
Good evening.
good evening. So I am here, as mentioned, the request for determination of applicability. Oh yeah, I should say, I'm Jeff Davis at 513 Strawberry Hill Road.
Thank you.
And I'm looking at the southeast corner area. It's a low-lying area, and we're trying to look to this determination if there's any connection with the jurisdictional wetland that it borders the property on the south. Had some work done by Hancock Associates to evaluate that area. They determined that there is no connection, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you. I didn't have any particular comments on this application. Any of the commissioners?
No.
Okay. Any public comment regarding the application?
So just from a staff standpoint, I will say that we went out, we confirmed that there is an isolated basin that has wetland soils and wetland plants. It is separated from the bordering vegetated wetland by an upland strip. There was no hydrate connection that was observed between the two. So confirming that there is no connection and that this would be an isolated wetland.
Thanks.
I move to issue negative determination number 1 and 6 for DEP file number, it's RDA file number 21-7.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you,
Second.
Nick. And the vote. Judy?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go
Good
for it.
evening.
Bye.
Next up, again, RDA 1075 Lowell Road, RDA file number 21-8. We'll be presenting.
Hello, my name is John Wolf. I'm the caretaker at 1075 Lowell Road.
Hey, John.
Carl and Farley are listening in. They're the homeowners or the property owners. They bought the property back in June of 2018. Could I introduce them?
Absolutely.
They should be on your screen. They'd like to say hello. Is that okay, Delia?
Hello, thanks,
Yes,
John.
absolutely.
I'm Farley and this is Carl.
Good evening.
Hi,
Nice to meet you.
you too.
So anyways, we would like to install a fence on the property, and some of the fence runs into the 50-foot and 25-foot zones. And we're looking for a little bit of feedback. The purpose of the fence, Farley has.
I can explain, John. if
Go
you-
ahead, Farley.
We have a big dog. Here he is. And he's a hound. He's a big hound. And so our property, there's kind of, trails we share with the public. And we've hung up signs and things, but which has helped. But Wally, our dog, has if there's even the slightest clue that a person or a dog is back on the trails, he'll run over and we'll spend the day with them if they let him. And it's caused some problems because he's very big and he's still young, and he's scary to dogs and people.
He's very friendly.
He's very friendly. So we we know that it's not ideal to have the fence. This fence would be a wire fence off the entire fence would be off the ground 6 inches. And so it's basically in order to kind of keep him on the property and reassure us that he's not causing any trouble.
Yep. Probably keep him somewhat in check. Again, I don't have any real issue with this. And Delia, if you could remind me, this is just a small portion within the 25 and 50?
Correct. So you can see this is the pond wetland boundary. This lighter green is the 25, and this even lighter green is the 50, and then that's the 100.
Right.
And then this is riverfront from here on down. So it is this section that is within the 25 and the 50. And that's it. And then this is within the 100-foot. This is all outside of jurisdiction until it comes back into here, and then it's in the outer buffer zone.
Any commissioners have any comments, observations? Okay. Anyone from the public have any comments in regard to this? All right. Well,
I guess
I
I would
make
say
a motion
I thank the landowners for keeping the trails open to the public.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
I move to issue a negative
Yeah, you-
determination to,
Much inside.
We need a fence in here.
you need the dog whisperer.
Thank
I don't know if he trains.
Thank
He
you.
must have just eaten dinner.
I make a motion to issue a negative determination numbers 2 and 3 for RDA number 21-8.
Have a second? Thank you, Nick. And we'll take the vote. Nick,
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you showing up and taking care of
Yes.
the
Thank
fencing.
you.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
trails.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see, we have let's see, that would be, I guess it's notice of intent for the Concord Children's Center, 250 Old Bedford Road, DEP file number 137-1562. Obviously, this is a new development, and it seems like there's a lot of components to it. So I guess I would just offer some advice that if any public comment could be limited to the NRC's purview, that would be appreciated. This is a lot of different pieces, and a lot of different departments will take planning, DPW, et cetera, will be opining on other major components of this application. So with that, who'll be presenting this evening?
Hello, Molly Ubendorf for the record with Stamsky McNary. I am also here with Pat Nelson, who is the Executive Director of the Concord Children's Center. Also here with Brooke Cash, who is one of the landscape architects for the project with Lemon Brook. And Brooke actually has a slideshow, if we could pull that up. But
So just for the record, we'll need that slideshow for our files. We need to have everything that is presented as part of the public record be part of the public record.
Okay.
So just make sure that we get a copy of that, please.
Certainly.
And so just to start, the property is located at 250 Old Bedford Road. That's right at the intersection of Virginia Road and Old Bedford Road. It's an existing single-family dwelling on the property, and the existing vegetation mainly consists of, primarily consists of lawn. The lawn actually goes right up to the edge of the wetland. Brooke, if you want to go to the next, yeah. So here are some pictures of the existing site. On the right is the existing house. This is looking at the house from Old Bedford Road, and there's an existing shed on the property, associated paved driveway, and some walkways throughout. And you can see from these pictures, it's just all lawn. And then the resource area on site consists, it's a bordering vegetated wetland. And there was an old farm drainage ditch in between the two properties running along the south property line in the back that over the years has turned into a wetland. And the
Sorry, Molly,
majority,
I'm having problems advancing the slides.
oh, that's okay. Oh yeah, because the next slide, we have some photos of the existing wetland area, and you can see the edge of lawn going right up to the wetland. And there's even a portion of lawn on the southeast corner that goes into the wetland a little bit. So
Excuse me, I'm going to pause the share for just a minute. Something seems to be happening with that I am not
Sure.
able to advance the slides. Just 1 second. Let me try to share again.
there we go. That worked.
Yeah, that worked. I just don't know if I can continue to advance this. So,
We'll deal with it as we go.
all right, sorry about that.
So this is some photos of the existing wetland, and the lawn goes right up to the edge of it. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's the existing house. You can see a little bit of it. So that's looking at the house from the back of the property, the southern property line. And the property, majority of it is within the buffer zone. A little over half of the property is within the buffer zone. So this is an overview of the entire site plan. It gives a good visual. So the 0-foot setback, that's the wetland boundary. And then we have the 25-foot no disturb. We have the 50-foot no build, and then the 100-foot buffer zone. So the existing house is actually a little within the 25-foot. I believe it's 24.3 feet from the edge of the wetland. I guess just an overview of the project. The existing single-family dwelling will remain. The proposed work is to convert that into a childcare facility, and it does consist of the addition that you see there. And the layout of the site was very thoughtfully laid out for the site constraints, to provide parking and to provide play space for the children. This is childcare. I believe younger children in this, and the education center here. And so the entirety of the addition, and including there's a porch along the back, is fully outside the 50-foot no build zone. And then a portion of the exit driveway of the parking lot falls within the 100-foot buffer zone. And currently existing on site, there's no stormwater management. And as part of the proposed work, we are providing stormwater management, extensive calculations and design for the increase in impervious area. Both the roof and the parking lot runoff will be captured and infiltrated in subsurface chambers. And that will mitigate the increase in impervious area. We are also proposing a significant amount of plantings across the site. Brooke will get more into the planting restoration, but so here you can see the infiltration chambers underneath the parking lot. Those are the dashed lines there. So those are fully outside the buffer zone, but worth mentioning because the building is within the buffer zone and we're capturing that entirety of that roof runoff. So in terms of stormwater, it'll actually be an improvement to the site, mitigating that runoff over land. And then I will just brief over the, I guess, open space areas, and I'll let Brooke get into more detail with that. But, the site is constrained. We have the wetlands and, trying to fit the building and the parking lot on here. So the remaining open space is mainly being utilized for play space. So there's a play space in the front, in that triangular area in between the parking lot and the building, and then there's play space in the back. And I didn't mention this before, but I'll mention it now. The site is handicap accessible. So there is a ramp in the back down to the play space area that makes that area accessible. That is within the 50-foot no build zone, but it's a deck on sonotubes. And let's see. Oh, and between the edge of the wetland and the 25-foot, as I mentioned before, this is fully disturbed. It's all lawn. And Brooke and her team at Lemon Brook have put in a very thoughtful amount of time and consideration into restoring this area, not only this area, but other areas on site as well. But particularly this area that is currently disturbed will be natural meadow after with a small mown path, a nature path for the kids where they will be escorted and safely taken through the site. And I will hand it over to Brooke to get into the plantings.
So sorry about the slide progression here, not quite as smooth as we would have liked. I think that this colored plan is a little bit easier to read, to see.
Brooke, could I just have your name and address just for the record?
Yes, sorry, Brooke Whiting Cash. I am a town resident, 1114 Lowell Road.
Thank you.
I'm part of Lemon Brook, the landscape architects for the project.
Thanks.
So as Molly touched on, the open space largely is being used for play areas where possible. We do have some zoning requirements for planted setbacks from neighbors' houses. We have held the play space entirely outside of the 25-foot setback. The play spaces, except for this paved path immediately outside the building, which will be emergency egress, the rest of the play spaces are all impervious surface. They're engineered wood fiber, looks like wood chips. It's a playground surfacing material or sand. And the underneath of the deck area will also be impervious. I'm sorry, pervious. So those are all pervious surfaces, all have, ability to drain water through them. And the engineered wood fiber is it's a 6 to 12 inch thick section for safety, but that also provides a really good degree of compaction resistance, so that the soils underneath that will remain perkable even with lots and lots of little feet running around on them over time. As Molly touched on, we do have this deck structure. It's labeled number 6 here. This is a way to provide a ramp for handicap accessibility to the playground area without making the children or people that need to use the handicap route feel like second-class citizens. It's a way to integrate that ramp into the play space. It provides this sort of landing deck area to provide for a program to take a class of kids out there and keep them a little bit more contained. And we've worked hard to come up with an entirely native planting palette that helps provide educational opportunities, satisfies the buffering concerns for the neighboring properties, but also looks to restore and rehabilitate the wetland resource on the project. As Molly said, it's entirely lawn and tall trees at this point. The lawn does even stretch into the wetland itself. This is a diagram that's showing tree removals on the property. All of the red trees marked in red are Norway maples. So that's something we know we want to get rid of, even if there weren't conflicts with other elements, we would want to be getting rid of those. And then there are several trees that are in extremely poor condition. So though large, they are, even if we could work around them, they would be hazard trees that would not be safe to keep in a developed facility. The trees marked in bright green are the trees we're keeping. This is a fairly nice sized linden in the back that we've worked really hard to work the design around to continue to provide shade and you know, a sense of place for the children. There's 2 larger trees, an elm and apple, I believe, in the rear corner that we're looking to keep. So we're really just looking to take out the Norway maples, and then we will be planting. Sorry, as we go here. Here's the proposed planting plan. So we have, you know, quite a density of planting along this buffer, buffering the play spaces from the neighbor's property line. We are trying to provide some woody planting in this meadow area to break up, provide additional habitat resources, but also managing a lot of woodies interspersed in a meadow area is difficult. We have a lot of experience, you know, establishing seeded meadows. It's not easy, but we're pretty well versed in what it takes to do that. So the intention is that that would be a native New England flower and grass meadow, that it would be mown probably once or twice a year to keep woody invasives out of it. So as a management strategy, and then that there would be a mown path through that. And you know, the location of that could be set or could be flexible if you had a preference on that. But the idea with that is really just to provide an opportunity so that supervised children could be taken out in small groups and walk through there. We've put in plantings that have, you know, different leaf shapes and different kinds of bark and berries and different opportunities to teach the children from the plantings in the landscape. And this is not an extensive list. This is the trees. I have another slide with the shrubs, but it's all native material. We've gone through to compute, you know, what's being planted within which area of the setback, and our, excuse me, sorry about that, another computer malfunction. We've gone through to do a tabulation of replacement caliper inch as well, and we are far exceeding the number of inches of caliper that we are removing outside of the maples. And again, I am having computer issues. So this is just a little bit closer view of that area within the 25-foot. We do need to put a fence at the edge of the play area for supervision of children. That's a child care requirement. There's really no way of getting around that. We would like to provide an opportunity to have some gardening programs. So that's over here on the left of the image is the hope for some raised beds there that the children could plant seeds. This is a year-round program. It's not a academic year nursery school. It is a full year childcare program staffed throughout the summer. And so they would really like to have a chance to have an opportunity for the kids to have somewhere to roll their sleeves up and get a little bit dirty. This is outside of their play area. So this would be a limited use, supervised only, small groups of children. So that's what these rectangles are here. And then this is about the fencing. This was a slide produced for planning. Really the fence that is of greatest impact is this blue fence C, which is along the 25-foot, just outside of the 25-foot zone. And then this one marked A1, which at this point we are considering to use the same fencing material as C. And the primary intention of that would be split rail with a coated wire mesh on it. We would like to have sort of celebrate these opportunities to get out into the landscape. This is not a example of exactly what we're proposing, but that we would like to have some opportunity for a constructed gateway that has a little bit more significance. And this is really more a design element. You know, there may be cutouts on this fence of farm implements or wildlife or something that is a design component they look through. One issue that we do have with the fencing requests or requirements of the NRC is lifting the fence off the ground. And there is an entrapment issue with small children with that. And so that's not something that we believe that we can provide that gap at the base of the fence based on childcare licensing requirements. So that is, you know, an issue we want to be upfront about and get out there, because there are child safety issues that prevent us from providing that gap under the fence. So that's really the conclusion of presenting the landscape work that is down on the wetland side of the project. You know, we're happy to answer questions or provide information about things happening on other parts of the parcel, but I think that pretty much covers what is related to the notice of intent.
Thank you, Brooke. I just kick it off with just one question on that deck. I think it was labeled number 6 and the handicap. So are both those supported? They're not on the ground. They are both raised off the ground and supported structurally?
Yes. So as you can see in this image, there's sort of an oval portion of deck. So that's a flat, typical deck portion. The 2 curved segments above and below that are ramps. So the whole structure is built on piers. So the whole thing is supported up off the ground. By the time you get to the bottom piece here, we're proposing a willow tunnel. By the time you get to the bottom of that ramp, you're at grade. So there may be a grade beam or something where that lands,
Sure. Okay.
evens out. But yes, it's all a deck structure up on piers.
Thank you. Yeah, Nick?
Yeah, I guess my primary concern is about the extent of the impervious, including the building and the parking area inside the 100. This area has a long history of flooding and failed septic systems that led the town to agree to extend sewers into this area. And that's a concern with that much impervious. I heard the statement that something would be done to allow the water to infiltrate, but given the history and given the fact that there were drainage dishes there to deal with this problem that don't function any longer, I have concerns about that.
Yeah, I can speak to that. There, that's always a primary concern. Runoff over impervious area. And we hear that, which is why, we're mitigating it. And, there's always a concern of increasing the groundwater table. It's the same amount of rainfall on the same amount of area. It won't increase, any existing groundwater problems. It won't contribute to any sort of existing issues. And the drainage structures are, we're holding our distance to groundwater, any required setbacks to property lines and buildings, to provide a safe means to infiltrate that water and have it percolate into the ground properly. So we are, abiding by all the regulations and mitigating the increased impervious area with those structures.
Just along that lines, Molly, did you say that all the new structure and the existing house will go into those chambers?
That's correct. Yep, there is a small portion of the existing house that just for grade reasons and slope reasons, we couldn't get the downspout in that area to one of those structures. So there's a portion that's maybe about 100 square feet of the existing dwelling that will go into a small splash pad at the downspout area. So currently there's no mitigation for the existing house. And so we will be providing that mitigation for the majority.
And
of
we're
units.
still waiting for the town engineering department to study your numbers, correct?
Yeah, so actually we did get a memo back from engineering. So we will work with them to resolve any of their concerns that they had. So we will be working with them. There weren't any major concerns about the drainage per se. It was more layout concerns. But we will be working with engineering to accommodate those concerns and mitigate anything they had concerns about. So
Will the building going in have a basement to it?
no, it's a on slab.
Okay.
Brooke,
And oh, sorry, go ahead, Greg.
Go ahead, Judy. Go ahead.
No,
I was
go,
just gonna
Judy,
ask
go.
where the water table is.
The water table, so it was about 4 feet down, if I remember correctly. Yeah, about 4 feet down in the ground, which is why in the parking lot area, we are raising the grade ever so slightly to accommodate, that offset to groundwater, and then the cover needed over the chambers under the parking lot.
Okay.
Molly, what is the separation you do need from the Caltech chambers to the groundwater?
2 feet.
2 feet?
Yep.
Okay.
Question for Brooke. You were saying that for safety reasons, you could not abide by our customary 6 inch off the ground. How high I'm thinking of balusters and the distance between it. How high up can you keep the fence and still have it safe, but can you compromise to 4 inches?
Well, so that's a good question. And part of the issue becomes maintaining the ground level underneath it. So the playground requirement is that an opening has to be smaller than 3.5 inches. But the problem is that, kids dig and, anything that a kid could get their foot or hand or, these are little kids, their head caught under the licensing requirements, and playground reviews for licensing reviews are extremely strict. And, so we could put it at 2 inches and hope it doesn't get another 1.5 inches down. But, even just the thatch on turf, plus minus an inch or two is pretty tough to be that specific with a thatch on turf.
Yeah, I don't personally see any need for it, given that it's a corner lot and there's really no wildlife passage or corridor or anything of that sort there.
It's not, the fence is not prohibiting any kind of wildlife traveling around the edge.
Right.
It is,
Sure.
it would prohibit them from traveling into the heavily occupied, heavily trodden play area.
Right.
So I think the desire line would not be super strong to
Right.
go there.
Brooke, a question on the lighting that's proposed. I think staff might have noted that, it's not necessarily dark sky friendly lighting. Any thoughts towards?
It actually is. Let me see if I do have a slide for lighting, if I can figure out how to get out of the full screen mode. I can pull up our lighting slide that was part of the planning board presentation last night. Are you able to see that?
Not yet.
Sorry, that just fouled up my sharing. There. So this is a diagram done from our photometric study. The larger areas of light are in the parking lot for vehicular circulation and safety going to and from cars from the building. The main building entrance is here where my cursor is. This is lighting on the front porch for egress. Again, this one light is at a existing rear basement door for egress. This lighting around the building, there's a canopy on this side, and then on the east side and north side, those are at minimal levels that are required for emergency egress. And all of those fixtures noted B are mounted 30 inches off the ground. They're like a step light. Let's see. So this slide shows the soffit lighting. That's where we have porches. And then this is the lighting for egress where we do not have a porch to light down from. So these are all full cutoff fixtures, and they really are not projecting light very far at all beyond where we need it for safety.
Is there an intention here to operate this after dark? Or what time? I mean, in the winter time, how late
I
does it
believe
run?
they're open until 6:30. Pat,
Oh,
correct me
okay.
if I-
Okay.
6 or 7 o'clock.
No, we're only open till 6.
Till 6. So there may
Yeah.
be cleaning people or something
Yep,
that are
yep,
there later that we may need to set the lighting schedule, as long as there are people occupying the building, even if it's for maintenance, you know, for safety egress, we do have to provide the lighting around the building edges, but they're not there all night. So I
Correct.
certainly
That's
think
what I was
there's
sort of.
a,
That's what
yeah,
I was
there's
sort
an
of drawing.
opportunity to set some kind of you know, programmed schedule. I would imagine, speaking with the architect, that would be possible.
Right.
Yeah.
So the lighting will have a timer ability to set back after all the
It
people.
can. It
Okay.
can. It hasn't been designed yet.
Okay.
One more question on the drainage, the roof drains, and that. I'm sure you used conventional, Molly, you used conventional authorized calcs, but we know from experience that you have flash floods and heavy rains. Do you have an outfall for those structures should we get a deluge of two inches in an hour? And where would that water go?
Yep, so there is an outfall,
Looking
if you
for
want to
your-
go to.
Yeah, I'm looking for your plan that has
Yeah.
that.
So there's, yeah, right there. So that services the larger infiltration bed. Engineering did have a comment to provide one also for the smaller one that's servicing the roof drainage. So this will overflow into this level spreader. So it's not going to be just a pipe discharging. It'll be, you know, this, I guess, channel, for ease of words, it will fill up and then slowly overspill, and then eventually go into the wetland. And I will add that there's significant treatment for all of this runoff from the parking lot. So there's, I think, 90% removal of total suspended solids before it even enters the infiltration bed. And then the infiltration bed provides additional drainage on top of that. So whatever outflow comes from that overflow pipe and level spreader will be fully treated in clean water. And it's right outside the 50-foot there. So. And-
I think this is somewhat related to drainage, but also just the amount of coverage on the lot and specifically in the jurisdiction. What was the basis for the sizing of the building and the parking lot?
Yeah, so the parking lot, we're actually working with planning to reduce the amount of parking that's required for this type of facility. Pat Nelson has, you know, gone through extensive analysis of some of her other existing education centers for parking, and the parking provided on site is merely just what's needed. So we're working with planning to get that. And then the size of the building, maybe Pat could speak more to this, but I know that there's, you know, specific sizing requirements for classrooms and providing certain amount of space. And, you know, there's just, this is actually a smaller building than what was originally considered. So it's already been reduced in size to the absolute minimum extent that it can be.
So maybe to that point, it might be helpful to understand how this proposed building relates to what the existing programming is at the Concord Children's Center. If this is an expansion or similar conditions or a reduction, that would be helpful for me to understand.
Do you want to speak to the general situation with Ripley and why this property was acquired in the first place?
Nope, I don't think we need to know that. I think we just need to understand what the programming is that's proposed for this space compared to what it is
Sure.
for the existing condition. What's going on right now?
This is program that is currently at Ripley, 0.2 miles down the road. And the school district has decided they need that space and is no longer leasing that space to the children's center. And so the children's center looked throughout town to find a property that could suit their needs. And so this is a build to suit facility. It is no expansion of additional children. I'm not sure what you're asking, Delia.
I'm sorry, just the numbers.
Numbers, yeah.
Are we looking, so there are 72 kids that are proposed for programming here based on, you know, the square footages per child?
Yeah.
From what I calculated. So I'm just trying to understand, are you increasing the programming from what is currently being programmed?
Or Delia, is it increasing the square footage?
Yeah. Assuming it's one and the same in terms of if there's a square foot count per pupil.
Right. Do you have 72 kids right now that are currently part of the current
Children's
program?
Center. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're taking 3 classrooms that are over at our Emerson program for infants and toddlers, and 3 classrooms that are over at our Ripley program, and moving 6 classrooms into this building. The square footage per child has changed since COVID started. So whereas we used to be required to have 35 square feet per child, it's now required to have 42 square feet per child. But optimally, you want to have 45 to 50 is considered best practice square footage for children. So our classrooms at Ripley are actually a little bit bigger than the classrooms here. These classrooms come out to be a little bit over the 42, I think.
That was Pat Nelson talking, correct?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Pat Nelson. I'm the executive director.
Thanks,
I live in Concord as well at
Thanks,
52
Pat.
Cottage Lane. So we're not expanding our program. We are simply taking 2 of our sites and combining them into one location. I just want to also clarify when I don't know if it was Brooke or Molly who said that the building is smaller than originally conceived. That's true. That was a middle conception. The original conception, which was talked about before we'd even purchased the building, before we even had an architect or started designing the program and putting together a space summary, we thought it would be around 5,000 to 6,000 square foot, 1-story building. Once we got the site, got on the site and an architect involved and began to look at the grossing factors and all of those things, it is now closer to a 7,000 square foot, 2-story building with about a 3,500 square foot footprint. So the footprint is indeed smaller. I think it was reduced from around 9,000 square feet to the 7,000 square feet somewhere as we were doing it's not value engineering at this point. It was just looking at the space summary and seeing where we could save some space. Does that answer your question, Delia?
Yes, it does, Pat. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So as I understand what you're saying, the square footage between one building, so between the Emerson space and the Ripley space, putting it into this new space is not changing. Is that right? Or,
I don't know if I can say it's exactly not changing. I mean, I'd have to look at my square footage calculations on my computer at work, but it should be
Okay.
roughly the same. And
right, okay,
it's rough-
so I think it might be helpful just to understand, and I only ask this because there is that intrusion into the 50-foot no build zone. And I saw your architecturals with the, the spacing in terms of, is it 45 for, I don't remember what it is for different, 42 for different, preschool, COVID, whatever it is. But let's not look at COVID. Let's look at what it is going to be in reality, hopefully, knock on wood, very soon, what those numbers are for how many students that you have. I think so that if there's a way to reduce the amount of, massing that you're coming into the 50-foot no build zone with that very small accessible entryway. If you can reduce that, that would be great. So I think that would be just helpful to understand if that is something that you can have on the next submission.
I'm not totally understanding, Delia, the differentiation. Sorry.
If you're going into the no build zone, we'd like to see an alternatives analysis, sort of like, is that a necessity? Or is there another way of finessing that so you don't have that incursion into the 50?
Or as big a one.
Or as big a one.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what she's driving at, is the quantity of children are the same, and the size is as, I wouldn't say as small as possible, but it's not expanding beyond what you currently need, so that you're expanding your program. Because if that were the case, then that would be a way of mitigating the going into the 50, right? Because you could make the building smaller. So just take a look at that to be sure there isn't a way of thinking that you could take that out of the 50 or reduce its
I do just want to be clear, though, that we're not talking about the building envelope. The building envelope is outside of the 50.
Correct.
So this is really not about square footage of the building or
Well,
So it is a little bit,
children
though.
that are served in the building.
It is though, Brooke, just because the size of the building is what is, and the size of the parking lot.
If you reduce the size of the building, you bring the entranceway out of the 50.
Right.
So let me go back to the landscape
the
plan.
accessible entrance is in the 50.
That's correct.
And all of this is being driven by the size of the building and the size of the parking lot. So the commission's interest is not having new incursions into the 50.
Right, we understand that. And the size of the ramp is not related to how many people are in the building. It's related to how much grade change we have to make up. And so how long of a ramp you need to meet ADA to get that long of a ramp.
But
in
that
the
ramp,
what about-
plan, so.
that ramp.
But
could
the
also
ramp
take a
starts at the
different-
edge of the structure.
Yeah,
If
it could also
the
take. a-
structure were smaller, you'd have less ramp going into the 50. It's just a geometry.
Yeah, and the ramp could also take a different configuration outside the 50 as well, towards the back of the property.
The issue is there's designated play space that's required. I know there's a square footage per child for play space required. And, moving the ramp or deck would take away from that play space. And I don't think reducing the building is an option. I think it's pretty much at the minimum required size that's needed for this program. But I can just leave it at, Brooke and I can definitely look at the ramp, see if there's any way, any way at all to maybe minimize the encroachment into the 50 ever so slightly while still functioning as an accessible route.
Right. You may find that there's nothing you can do about it, as you know, Molly, but you do the alternatives analysis and then come back and say, we tried this, and this, and it didn't work. Therefore, that's why we're we have to insist on this. I mean, it's similar to the argument of the gap under the fence. Yes, we'd love to give you 6 inches off the ground, but we can't because we have a law that says we can't. Well, therefore, we're not probably gonna require the fence to be off the ground. It's a similar logic that do your analysis, your alternatives analysis, and you will have succeeded probably at what you want.
Just so that we understand, when the deck is pervious and built on piers so that the area underneath it remains pervious as well. You know, we did carefully look at this as deck as opposed to a concrete ramp that would have runoff and a much heavier footprint.
Yeah, I think the issue is that it's a structure, not that it's pervious or not.
Yeah,
It's a
and we appreciate the approach being taken to make,
Yep.
but it's the disturbance of having an actual structure.
We
If
will
you
look
came
at
up
some
with an
alternatives.
alternative, Brooke, if you came up with an alternative that was outside the 50, we'd be much happier.
Yeah.
There may be no alternative. It's just that if you haven't done that exercise, it's something that we sort of require people to do. If you're gonna say we have to be in the 50, our question back to you is why? Now show us why.
We'll show you some other alternatives.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
we can do that. We can do that.
That's
for
all.
sure. Yeah.
That's all we're
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah.
Hey, Pat, just a quick question, just
Sure.
to clarify in my own mind, on the square footage, I think you mentioned about 7,000 feet, give or take.
Yeah.
Does that also include the house as well?
No, that is the new structure.
Okay,
That's the addition. And that includes one office. It includes a gross motor room. Early childhood centers all have gross motor rooms. But all of the other administrative space is going to be in the existing house. So with the exception of the director's office, and you have to have a director in the space, it's all program space. But we can certainly take a look at that. I'm sure our architects would be happy to do that.
okay. Just for clarity, I just want to know perhaps the overall square footage and then of course the addition itself.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I'll also just mention that we are guided by the Department of Early Education and Care. We probably won't know for another year, depending on how long COVID goes, if the department is going to go back to its 35 square feet per child. And we also and that is fine in our infant toddler rooms, but in our preschool rooms, we really do try to adhere to best practice, which it would be larger than that.
Yeah, the other
Thank you.
topic that I don't think we've touched on.
Any other comments?
Yeah, we talked about the distance from the fence in terms of it not being able to be above 6 inches due to safety. I know, Brooke, you showed to some extent where the fence is. Is there any opportunity to move as much of that safety fencing as possible outside of the 25-foot?
It's entirely outside of the 25-foot. I can bring that slide back up.
Oh, okay. I
No,
thought
no,
there
it's
was
not.
some that was
Isn't
going
it-
around.
Isn't it
the
Oh,
already
I'm sorry. I misspoke.
Yeah.
I misspoke. This blue section is outside. This section labeled A1. We could potentially do that piece without the wire, with just the split rail. This is a supervised children only. I mean, they're always supervised, but they're not running loosey-goosey through here. And so if that were favorable to have better wildlife passage, that could be just a split rail that's, you know, an indication to children that they're not to go out into the road. It's really the road that we're concerned about there.
Yeah. Yeah, if you
And
can
I
also
don't-
potentially look at pulling that up so that the bottom part that's on the south side of the lot, if you could pull that up, I think that's in the 25-foot, if that doesn't need to be there, if that could be.
It is, the interest is at where the label A1 is. That's really where the ditch starts. That's a very visible signal to the children that you don't go beyond there. And what we're trying to do is to provide a very clear, unambiguous boundary for children that, you know, would be in small supervised groups, but out in this area, they're very small children, and Old Bedford is a busy road. And so that's been the interest in trying to return that piece of split rail fence back. to
So
the-
what if you flipped that fence and you came off the back side of the building to the east or to the right of the gardens, right? I don't think you can see my mouse.
No,
Okay, so you know where the gardens are? Maybe you
Yes.
can point those out, Brooke.
yes, those are the rectangles here.
So to the right-hand side of the gardens, you know, you have the fence on the right-hand side of the building here. You start it up at the gardens and you bring it to the left and down to, you know, to that point, so that you're, I think there's ways that you could sort of look at the fence and keep it out of the 25. So maybe that's something else that you can look at.
Yeah, for
If we did a more heavily planted screen in that 25-foot piece with wetland natives, would that be satisfactory if we could eliminate the fence return that was in the 25 and just have the piece along Old Bedford?
Yeah. I think, yeah. I mean, it's the fence that's the issue. Native plantings are not going to be an
Yeah,
issue.
so why don't we'll look at if we can take that one leg of the fence out that runs along the south property line that's within the 25.
Yeah.
We'll see if we could replace that with a density of planting that we could establish that visual boundary with.
Great. And just, you know, from the standpoint of, you know, this was something that, so, you know, there's the 1-to-1 mitigation for work in the 100-foot buffer zone, and then 10-to-1 for work in the 50 structure in the 50.
Yes.
So the, you know, Molly, this is something, you know, we ask you every single time that you come in front of us. So that chart of work that is in the 25, 50, 50 to 100 zones, we'd like to see that. The commission cannot work without having that because we cannot confirm that the mitigation that's being proposed is adequate. So that's something that was not in the initial proposal. So if you can just make sure that's in the next round.
Molly may understand that better. We tried putting our plant schedule specifically broken down.
Understood.
Okay,
So
this is beyond that.
Yep. So that's all great. That's all there on your landscape plan, Brooke. We need that to be quantified per zone to confirm that the mitigation is adequate for the impacts that are coming into the 100-foot buffer zone.
Okay, Molly and I can work together to do that.
Yeah,
you know, we
I
ask for
can
this, so.
specify the impervious area between the 1500 foot. There's no increased impervious area between the 25 and 50 and the 0 to 25. So I will break it up accordingly. And I believe there was a number in the NOI, the narrative, that specified the area of the structure within the 50. But
we
I
need
will,
as you know, it's
I'll
in the
provide that
checklist.
chart.
We
Yeah.
talked about this, Molly.
Yeah.
I would say every meeting that we have. So just a reminder that it would be great to see that, you know, come for the next submittal.
Great.
Okay. Any other comments from the commissioners?
No.
Okay.
There's trees removed, being proposed to be removed. And, you know, again, when they're removed within jurisdiction, it's good to have the justification for the removals of the trees and what the mitigation is for the trees themselves.
So that is included in the plant schedule,
Okay.
the replacement values and the, are you interested within the 100 or just within the 50 Which
The
trees are being
100.
removed.
The 100.
I can go back to. the
So,
slide.
so that's, I think what Judy's looking
Together.
for is an arborist's
Yeah.
Mhm.
recommendation on why those trees are coming out, because
Right.
it's, you know, there's a lot of X's on the plan, but not a lot of justification for why.
So this is the 100-foot boundary here.
Mhm.
So these 3 trees are within the building footprint.
Mhm.
These are Norway maples. We don't have to take them out. We're offering to take them out.
Yeah.
So just
And
to,
we'd
just
like
to
to.
provide that, Brooke, in writing would be really
Yeah,
helpful
that'd
to
be
have for the
great.
record. Thanks.
Okay, I think that that's somewhere in the narrative, but Molly and I can confirm that. And then this is a fruiting pear that is in the location where the level spreader is going to go. And so that's why that one would be coming out.
Okay.
Well, we'll put it in writing and provide, you know, the chart as well.
Thank you. So we'll move to the public comment. Any public comment on this application this evening?
Hi, this is Michelle Beck. Can you hear me?
Yes, Michelle, name and address, please.
Sorry, we are at 26 Phillip Farm Road.
Thank you.
We're the direct abutter behind. We have some commentary on the scope of the project with the large percentage of impervious surface. And I think I would like to better understand the distribution of space types with the existing home compared to the addition. And how that relates to the space types from the locations that they're moving. For example, could the existing home, it seems to be proposed to be used largely for administrative purposes, as opposed to programming purposes. Is that consistent with the previous location and whatnot? And perhaps if the building could be smaller, you could address some of the encroachment on wetlands. Right. I think it was
I'm not the architect, but I can respond just generally to that egress requirements and access requirements make it very, very difficult to use the existing building space for children's programming. And so that's why the majority of the classroom space and space that's primarily occupied by the children is, you know, needs to go in the new addition piece.
There's also, initially before COVID, our plan was to have a small after-school program on the first floor of the existing farmhouse so that it would be program space. It's up in the air now as to whether or not we'll be able to provide a after-school program, depending on whether or not the public schools will still transport children to the nonprofit programs after COVID. So more than you need to know, but that was part of the plan, was to use that for program space, the first floor.
And then my second comment, going back to, I'm not an environmental engineer type person, but where the flowering pear tree is and there's that water egress for overflow. There was, yes. So you're removing the flowering pear tree, and then the water overflow would go into our backyard. That part is higher than the rest of our yard. And then the Halfs who live next door to us, again, their backyard is higher than ours. Every year at this time, we have large puddles of water right behind our house. So I am concerned about having that egress of water into our yard. I would like some better understanding of how that impacts, given the large impervious spaces, how that impacts the yard. I know the lawn is worse than the excellent plantings that are proposed, but I was just curious to have some more information about that.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So there is a natural swale along that property line, and we're not raising the grade in that area. So
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you put that in, I'm a healthcare person, not an environmental person, so I don't understand what you're, in more lay language, just so I understand it better.
So there's a channel essentially along the property line. It's natural. Currently, we're maintaining that channel. So, and we're not increasing the grade in that area enough to affect the abutting properties. And this level spreader won't be going, there's not going to be continuous discharge. The discharge for this level spreader is for extremely high volume storms, 100-year storms that happen every 100 years. So it's not like this level spreader will be continuously pumping out water. It will only be for those very extreme storms. And even when the water is coming out of it, it will be controlled as to not overflow onto abutting properties, and eventually will go into the wetland. So,
so Molly, what I might suggest that you look at is, are there any low impact development stormwater management features that you can incorporate into this site that would address the abutters concern, as well as just, you know, address the large amount of hardscape that's being incorporated into this parcel?
Yeah, I mean, I can work with Brooke to see if there's an alternative, maybe a
There's
rain
lots of
garden
alternatives.
or, yeah.
I'm sure you guys can come up with something.
That's what I'm saying. So we'll have that discussion. You know, the level spreader is a low impact design, but I do understand, you know, wanting
I'm thinking rain gardens, bioswales, things that are softer than you know, a hardscape level spreader, conventional kind of stormwater management technique, something that's a little more innovative.
Yep.
And I'm sure you guys can come up with something.
Yeah,
We
may
will
have
look at
a
that.
little more holding capacity too, initially, versus just hitting a level spreader.
That was
I think that the thing to note is that the level spreader is the overflow of the subsurface chambers, and the subsurface chambers provide incredibly more volume than a surface LID feature could. Typically ponding depth on surface LID landscape features is about 6 inches. And the storage volume we have below grade in the cisterns is far exceeds anything we can provide on the surface. And it's important to note that anything we do on the surface is also recharging into the ground, which is the same thing that the cistern is doing.
Yeah, and just to add to that, engineering did make a comment about that as well. Wanted to see the sizing of the level spreader, so that is something that, you know, we'll work to improve and, you know, get a lower impact design for that level spreader. Brooke and I can work. I think a rain garden would be, you know, good in this area. So her and I can discuss that and see what the best alternative is.
Great.
Awesome.
Any other comments from the public? Yes, Mark.
Oh, hi. Yeah, Mark Galis, 62 Prescott Road. Thanks very much. I was just curious if there is a description in the water management system information given to the Public Works that describes what the maintenance and inspection schedule is for those, you know, other than open passive systems, because that's always a concern that depending where the entrance is and how much solids happens to be captured and things like that. So I was just curious about how much that's gone into, and also whether in this part of town there's any similar size system, and how it's been working, and how the town has been working with it and the neighbors react. Thank you very much.
I can speak to that. I can't speak to other systems in the area, but there is an operation and maintenance schedule for all drainage structures on the property, and engineering has reviewed that as well. So there are cleanouts. There's an excessive amount of cleanouts on both infiltration beds that are accessible to grade and allow the system to be jetted, essentially. So, but as I said before, there are treatment units in the manholes that are removing 90% of the total suspended solids. So very, very little, if any at all, solids will be entering the actual chambers. But if that does happen, then there is a way to clean those chambers.
And Mark, I would just add to that the engineering department is reviewing the stormwater, the drainage report, and associated with that is an operations and maintenance plan that they review as well. So they're reviewing all of that to make sure that it complies as far as where it's been applied around town. I don't know. We do have some subsurface that are proposed. They're not the town's favorites because they're a little bit more challenging because you can't see, they're out of sight, out of mind. But that just means that and we'll include this in a condition for anything that's approved for a project here, that the subsurface drainage has got to be, those inspections have to be done in accordance with the O&M plan, the operations and maintenance plan.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying that it's been my experience over time talking to engineering in town that it's not the preferred method, that it's more suited to a denser area where there is no possibility of surface.
It's just harder to monitor. It's out of sight, out of mind.
Right. So it's a it's a factor, and those separators for solids also. Obviously the solid doesn't take care of itself. So it's an important thing for people to consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further public comment? All right. Molly, Brooke, when would you like to continue this out to? June 2nd? Would that make sense? Or would you like to come back on the 19th?
I think the 2nd would be great. That, Molly, if you agree, that's.
Yeah, seems like that you'll need the time to pull that together.
That would be great.
2nd's good.
Okay. Thank you. We'll plan to see you back on the 2nd.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
very much.
Thank you.
All right. Notice of intent, 309 Strawberry Hill Road, DEP file number 137. And Delia, did we get a number or is that still outstanding?
Oh, you're on mute.
Yep, you're on mute, Delia. Delia, you're on mute?
I'm sorry, I can't unmute when I'm sharing. We did get that. I don't have the number, Tom. I hope that you do.
Yep. Tom Hughes with Hughes Environmental Consulting, here on behalf of Dennis Fiore. Dennis is out there too, in case anything comes up where we need him to address. The DEP file number is 1371563.
Thank you.
Dennis is looking to replace the barn that it's been in somewhat deteriorating condition on his property on Strawberry Hill Road. The existing barn has some trees growing right up against it. They were, I guess, administratively approved for removal back in 2015, which was actually when Dennis first reached out to me considering the barn replacement project. And then he put it on hold until 2019, just before the COVID stuff hit. So we're a little slow in getting from 2019 to now, but here we are with the NOI to replace that. There is a bordering vegetative wetland associated with a pond that is located in the upper left of the plan that you can see there. It's on the other side of a driveway that runs through an easement to the neighbor's house. The slope down from the existing barn is pretty densely wooded. And Delia, if you have the photo sheet that was in the NOI, do you have that? If you page up in that
Yeah,
PDF you're in.
so bear with me because it's going to.
Yeah. Right there. Okay, so if we can zoom out, and you can see, like right there, you can see one of the trees growing right up against the existing barn, and you can actually see in the back left some of the trees that are growing right into the existing barn. I know that we've heard from staff that they would like us to actually label those trees and show mitigation for them. Which we will do. There's also, if you can see in that, it's not real easy to see, but there's one deciduous tree that is leaning kind of heavily towards the barn in that upper right one. I think it's that one right there, that we're going to try to save by cutting off some dead branches, but we may have to cut it back. And we offered that we would mitigate in the event we couldn't save it. But what we will be doing is between now and the next meeting, we'll be labeling all the trees, giving you the species and giving you what we propose for mitigation for those. That's no problem. If we can go back to the plan, Delia, just should be the second to last page. The file setup for double-sided printing, which is why there's some blank pages in there. All right. So the barn replacement is slightly larger than existing, but it's entirely outside the 50-foot. We do clip in with the limit of work just to give, you know, enough room for the frost walls. It's a frost wall with slab, you know, for a foundation. So we give enough room there for them to work. But, you know, it's outside 50 feet. It's pretty straightforward replacement buffer zone right up near the street. There's a driveway that separates the site from the resource area. There is another wetland area that comes in just off screen down below, where I just placed a couple flags where it kind of got to its closest. And you can see that area down there. That's kind of between Mr. Fiore's yard and the neighbor's garden. Like I said, I mean, it's certainly a lot simpler than some of the other projects you've had in front of you tonight. What I'd like to do is get any additional feedback or questions from the commission. We'll update the plan and come back at your next meeting and hopefully have everything, all the I's dotted and T's crossed.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't have any particular questions, commissioners. Looks pretty straight away. Okay. Any comment from the public? All right. So hearing none. So Tom, you want to be on for next meeting, May 19th?
Absolutely. We've got somebody going out either tomorrow or the following day to document all the tree stuff. So we should be good to go.
And Delia, when do you need that in by? Friday?
Friday. Yep.
Oh, this Friday?
Yeah, to be on the 19th, just FYI.
Yeah, we'll take care of that. If for any reason, if we can't do it, then we'll ask for another continuance.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty straightforward. So if you need a day or two, we can work with you on that. But that's the deadline is this Friday. So
Right,
hopefully
yeah.
you can get it in by then. But
Yeah, it's close of business Friday?
Yep.
They're pretty simple changes. I think we can.
They are
I think we can
simple.
do that.
So
Yeah.
and they're simple for us to review. So if you can't get it by Friday, then we can just
Yeah.
reach out.
I'll text the surveyor as soon as I get off the meeting. So
Good.
All right. Yeah,
Thank
thank you very much.
We'll see
And
you
so I request a continuance to the next meeting.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Yep, thank you very much. Take care.
Good evening. Let's see, we have another RDA, 136 Barnes Hill Road, RDA file number 21-9. And he'll be addressing this tonight.
Hi there. My name's Terence Yeo, and along with Elizabeth, my wife, we're the owners of 136 Barnes Hill Road. We just bought it about 8-9 months ago from the Sears family, and it obviously Concord residents for many, many years. And I'm representing myself tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So you want to just touch on this a little bit in terms of what you're up to?
Yeah, sure. So obviously we've bought the property. It's on 3.9 acres. It's bordering on Macomb Pond, just off of Barnes Hill Road. Our sort of thought process is that we're just going to take our time to just like work through the various different aspects of how we're going to develop the property. Our first goal is just to get to a point where the house is livable, you know, that we can enjoy it with our family. We've got a 1-year-old and a soon-to-be 3-year-old, and you know, this is sort of a long-term project for us. We're obviously sort of learning everything about the wetland zone and preserving, you know, the wetland zone, and we understand why we're here and why we need to gain approval. And we're very supportive of that. So we're just trying to navigate our way through what we want to do with the property and how we want to develop the land and make sure that it's consistent with the goals of the committee here today. I've already had the wetlands flagged and delineated. We had Stamsky McNary. I've got to know Molly and George at Stamsky McNary. We've had them flag the wetlands while B&C Associates did the flagging of the wetlands. And so we've had the wetlands flagged, we've had it mapped out. So we know exactly where the wetlands are. We know where the 25-foot is, the 50-foot is, the 100-foot is. And we know where those are relative to the property and relative to what we're planning to do. And the reason we're here tonight is because we wanted this notice of determination with regards to the first phase of the renovations of the property. We wanted to make sure that we got a determination that we were outside of the wetlands with regards to what we want to do. And so we met with Delia, and she came to have a look at the property, and Delia can comment on that in this forum. We also have a couple of very big pines that are, according to the arborist, co-dominant and somewhat of a very dangerous nature. And actually there's quite a lot of pines that seem to be somewhat of a dangerous nature, and we're not quite sure how to navigate our way through those. But part of the reason we're here tonight is to say, can we get approval to remove those 2 dangerous big co-dominant pines that the arborist has flagged? And so on this particular slide that you've pulled up, you'll notice lots of green and yellow and purple dots. And those are the comments from the arborist saying, these are the trees that he recommends that we remove, and these are invasive species, and these are dead trees and various things like that. Those are the 2 that we want to get approval from tonight. In addition to that, we basically, in conversations with Delia, who's been very, very patient with regards to my constant emails back and forth, in conversations with Delia, we understand that we need to develop a plan to basically figure out what we're going to do with the wetlands and whether we need to remove additional trees, and if we do, what we have to do for mitigation with regards to the removal of those trees. And we're not planning to present anything tonight on that. What we're hoping that we can get to tonight is an agreement that says, you're okay, you're outside of the wetlands with regards to what you want to do with the renovations. We're okay with the 2 pine trees that you want to remove. And we're okay with the idea that you come back to us at some later date to talk about the plan with regards to the wetlands as a whole. And that's why we're here tonight.
Thank you. Yep, yeah, and you're always invited back to talk about future considerations on the wetlands. So again,
I just wish somebody could help us understand what to do about these very, very tall pines that seem to be just waiting to fall over on a house.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we're really worried about at the moment.
Yeah. Those are the two, the 61 and the 68 inch. Those are big trees.
It's kind of scary when the wind blows.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, I watched about a 50-foot tall pine literally fall down last Friday. With the
Really?
wind.
Yeah.
I
Oh my
was,
God, yeah. So
well, we actually have quite a few that have fallen over that are in our sort of, it's not really a backyard at the moment. It's kind of like a back mud heap. And we've had a few that have fallen over. And the only thing I can say is they weren't quite tall enough to hit the house, but it feels like, I don't know. I mean, we were in there and a couple fell over while we were in there with the arborist. I mean, literally like a couple of things. I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't envy your jobs because I understand exactly what you're trying to achieve, but it's obvious that these pines just get to a certain height and then they're gonna fall over and their roots aren't very deep.
Right.
And they're just gonna go.
And I think it's actually more, you know, when they're in a woodland, when they're in a forest, they're fine.
I know.
But it's when they start getting picked off at the edges,
I know.
that starts to reduce the integrity of that little group. And that's when it becomes problematic.
I mean, I have a general, I mean, I'm hoping that sort of I'm approaching this right way. I feel like Dita has been very helpful, and the meeting we had when she came over, I feel like I've got a good sense of what we need to do next. But I have a general question for you guys, which is like, we probably have, I'm just going to pick a number, 70, 80 pines that are well over 30, 40, 50, 60 feet. Like, do you ever get somebody come to you and say, like, look, we just want to get rid of all the pines and we're going to replace them, even if you want 10 to 1, we're just going to replace them, do whatever we have to do. But these are just, they're going to fall over. And we have small children, and we're always going to be in fear that they fall over and hit our kids. Like, what do you do in that situation? And you're trying to preserve the wetland, but you know deep down that these trees are going to fall over. What do we do? How do we manage that together to make what do we do?
Well, I think I'll take a crack at that question, and it's really going to be to throw the problem back in your lap.
Thanks.
Our function, quite honestly, is to analyze people's proposals to us. And there are professionals out there that create plans that come to us that we look at them and we say, okay, from this arborist's advice and this engineer and these people that Molly at Stamsky and all those people, they can guide you but it's inappropriate for us to recommend a solution for you, I think. Which is an easy way for us to get off the hook, but I think it's appropriate.
That's okay. So then my response to that would be, in the spirit of being sort of friendly adversaries in this sort of like dance that we have to do, not dance, but the process, I would say to you, if my arborist says all of them are bad, we've got to get rid of all of them. If I come to you and say, like, my arborist says this, help me understand how to fill your need.
Well, but your advisors are going to tell you that in order to do that and get by the NRC, we're going to have to offer to do X, Y, and Z. And so you say, I need to take these 40 trees down and I'm willing to do X, Y, and Z. And we talk it back and forth. And most of the time, a couple meetings later, you're on your way.
Yeah. So my main sort of interest in being here at this meeting is because I feel like exactly what you just said is the process that I'm about to engage in. Correct. And at the end of the day, I feel like I just want to say to you guys, okay, so my arborist says knock down 40 trees. I'm gonna say, I think you're gonna say, what's your mitigation plan for knocking down those 40 trees? And then we'll get together again and I'll say, here's the 40 trees and here's my mitigation plan. What do you think? And I don't know, I'm like, I have a business and I feel more comfortable talking to you guys and understanding directly what you want me to do. then leaving somebody else, you know, I'm not saying I don't want to get the opinion of everyone, but it seems like at the end of the day, you're making the decisions on how you implement the rules. And I'm trying
Yes,
to
but
understand what the rules
we're-
are and how they're going to be implemented.
We're a regulator. We're a regulatory body. We don't design things. Okay?
Yeah, I get it.
That's it.
Yeah. So I think that's where I've got to go next after this. I'm assuming that I've sort of probably spoken too much. It's getting quite late. I'll leave it to Molly, to Delia, but I'm hoping that on the first thing, we're not planning to do anything with regards to the renovations of the house.
Right.
It's outside of the wetlands. I'm hoping you can say, okay, motion passed.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that you can say administrative approval to remove those 2 codominant pines, and then I'll see you down the road with regards to my plan.
Yep.
And we'll see how that goes.
Yep. I think you get a good sense of the dance involved. So the focus tonight is on the 2 trees.
Great.
Just
And the notice of determination on the renovation, I think.
No.
I don't think we're.
So those additions are here, and they are outside of jurisdiction.
So we wouldn't speak to those just being simply outside of jurisdiction, correct?
They're outside.
Yeah.
There's this tree, I believe it's this tree, and one right on the 50-foot. I think it is this one, 510 and 513.
They're flagged. So John Coppinger did the flagging, and they're flagged. And so Delia and she wrote down, I think it's like you said, 510 and 513. So I know there's a flag and a number, and we'll only take those 2 down.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That's what we understand the mission is tonight.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Terrence.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Any public comment on this application? Okay, hearing none. I think
I make a motion I move to issue a negative determination number 3 with the following conditions. 1, a stake straw wattle shall be placed at the limits of disturbance. 2, a pre-construction site visit shall be held with the department staff and the contractor to review the erosion controls and limit of work. And 3, after the project has been completed, the applicant shall submit a letter to the NRC stating that all work has been conducted in accordance with all the conditions of the determination of applicability. Any changes from the RDA shall be described. And this is for RDA file number 21-9.
Second.
Thank you, Nick. And the vote. Judy?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Good luck on the 2 trees, Terrence.
And don't worry, we'll mail that to you so that you have it. It'll
Yeah,
go
that's
out
great.
on
That'd be really
Friday.
helpful. All right.
Okay, very good.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that closes off the hearings for the evening, and we have some emergency certification ratifications. Really, you're on mute again, I think.
She maybe can't unmute while she's on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
I am so sorry.
That's okay.
I'm going to be very brief.
Yep.
But I did want to give you an update on the beaver situation at Sawmill Brook. So let me figure out how to get to our slideshow here from beginning. Okay. So you will recall that at the last meeting, I asked you to ratify an emergency certification to remove the beaver dam blockage at Sawmill Brook and install a beaver deceiver. And the Public Works Department, we worked together. They have been phenomenal. We are so lucky to have Alan, Cathcart and Steve Dukran, Aaron, Justin, everybody in all parts of Public Works, engineering, and highway and grounds. Has been a tremendous effort of coordination and collaboration. Anyway, so up gradient of what you see here in this photograph is Punkatasset. This is Sawmill Brook. Ellen Emerson's property is to the right. And there is a beaver dam, as you know, and you've seen it, probably many of you driving by here. This is on the left-hand side as you're driving north to Carlisle, just past Punk. This is the downstream side, Peterson's Fields. This is Sawmill Brook as it exits this culvert under Monument Street. This is the culvert if you're standing in Peterson's Fields. So it's this 5x3 box culvert. This is deceptive. This is actually about 15 feet from the bottom of the, well, so from the top of the water up to the road is about 15 feet. And it was flowing. This photograph was taken a couple of weeks ago. Very quick shot up, into the culvert. You can see it's an old culvert that was constructed when the road was built 150 plus years ago. As I said, there's a little bit of flow, but you can see that beaver dam blockage, into the culvert upstream is completely blocking the culvert. So the initial emergency certification was to authorize the town to do this, which was basically just to wiggle a little bit of the beaver dam, which is right here, just to wiggle it loose. And the beaver dam is about 8 feet below this level of water. And this is probably impounding probably 20 acres and maximum depth of 10 feet. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
And
how quickly did that happen, Delia?
so this was on Thursday that the.
No, I'm sorry, the water backup.
It began last fall, and I remember driving by, but it was way, way, way lower. And then Ellen Emerson contacted me about 2 months ago, and it kept rising rapidly.
Okay.
Over that period of time.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to get a sense of time here.
Yep.
Thank you.
And so we ran into a little bit of a problem. And this is a photograph of an excavator not removing trash, but actually putting down a gravel-filled sandbag, because I'm standing on Monument Street here. I'm looking up to the, the dam is here. But what happened was the shoulder of the road started to slump. And obviously a major concern that there was going to be a catastrophic failure of not only the water main that went under Monument Street and the national grid line and the overhead utilities, but of Monument Street itself and the culvert. So the dam got dammed back up again, and plan, probably C or D. This is over the weekend, this temporary bypass was installed. So this is a 24-inch HDP pipe that a pump, actually several pumps are going to be run through and have been run through. So that was excavation of that to allow that to be installed. This is now, that's the 6-inch pipe, that's the 10-inch pipe. And this is a big tarp that you've probably seen if you've been out there. The pumps are being run into another section of plastic pipe. These are Jersey barriers here. They're filled with water. They're each about 700 pounds. The point being to run the pumped water through this pipe and discharge it so that it basically banks off this Jersey barrier into this point of the field, the brook, Sawmill Brook. And then it goes under this, and we've been watching this to make sure that there's, good freeboard. There's always been at least an inch, hits the farm field, which is about 4 feet above the brook here. The brook does a left-hand turn and then again, right into, towards the Concord River. So this is with one 10-inch pump flowing. Exactly what we would want to see. It's just looking really good, dispersing nicely. It's discolored only because it's the water that's coming through is a little bit discolored itself, but there's no sedimentation, at all of the downstream end of things. No discoloration. This is just looking from a little bit further back. So this emergency certification is requesting, your confirmation that what we worked out was to basically allow for this saw cutting and all of this work that has just been, put forward. It's a little bit more expansive than the initial. The final goal is to have the beaver deceiver put in once the beaver dam blockage has been removed. So, the pumping will take at least 10 days to bring the water level down. And at that point, the beaver dam blockage can be assessed, and the culvert also needs to be assessed. Hopefully it can be maintained, restored. I'm not sure if that's the case. If it can't be, then Public Works will come back to you for, a request for a permit. But that water level needs to come down so that the next steps can be evaluated. So that's what I'm asking you to ratify, was the permission given to Public Works to really do a lot more than had initially been requested under that initial emergency certification.
Thanks. Well, it's certainly a lot of work on the fly to have all those components put together and keep it going. Seems like a good solution in the end. Thank you.
And I'll tell you again, I mean, the Public Works team and, the fire department and the police department, it has just been a really good collaborative effort. It has been a lot of, coordination, but it has just been a really good coordination amongst all the departments.
Okay. Any comments from the commission?
No, well done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad that people were paying attention to that and acting quickly. So thank you.
Yeah, with everything else that's got to be done to jump on something like that and take that kind of manpower and department resources, really, really appreciative. Okay. Delia, is this a public comment issue on the ratification? I wouldn't think so. Would you?
No, but no, I mean, it's typically not.
Okay, thank you. Do you need a vote on this?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're ready for the vote.
I make a motion to approve the emergency procedure that was enacted over the last week and will continue for another couple of weeks.
Second.
Thank you, Nick. Judy?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you, Delia and team.
Thank you.
All right, and I guess we have, let's see, I guess we have a close and issue decision for 1400 Lowell Road, file number 137-1545.
I have some further questions, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, you certainly can. Good evening,
Okay.
guys.
Marie, thank you so much for your letter in response to my questions. The further questions I have are with the EPA method that is being done for the SOV analysis, and it has very usefully listed all the compounds that are identified, which is great. But I noticed that, I didn't do a thorough analysis, but for instance, there were like at least 6 different phthalates identified. Does this method also provide a total phthalate total, for instance, as one example, but also like for polyaromatic hydrocarbons? How does that method roll that up in terms of, does it provide totals? And if so, how would it do so? What's the methodology to do that?
It doesn't provide totals. I mean, it provides the concentrations detected of each of the individual phthalates and PAHs and aromatic amines that are in that test.
Because I think what we were asking for is something that would provide those compounds, those class of compounds as a total phthalate, total polyaromatic hydrocarbons. And my concern is that using the EPA method, which does detect those individual ones, that if all of those are just slightly below the non-detect level, still could have a higher level of say, phthalates, et cetera, that would be something that I think we would want to know, because I think all of those individual compounds are equally of concern. There isn't just one that gives phthalates, for instance, a bad name. I could be wrong on that, and that's the basis of my question.
Well, so whenever I evaluate phthalates, I don't ever evaluate it as a total concentration. I take the concentrations of the individual phthalates that are detected and evaluate them that way. And then at the end, I do sum the total potential risks for anything that's detected, not just phthalates, PAHs or what have you, everything, to get a total risk. But I never evaluate anything as total phthalates or total PAHs. I evaluate them individually.
Could you explain the thought process behind that approach?
Well, it's what DEP and EPA recommend that you do. And the reason I believe for that is because individual phthalates have different toxicities and individual PAHs have different toxicities. So for instance, for PAHs, some of them are carcinogenic and some of them are not. So you're only going to evaluate carcinogenicity for the ones that are carcinogens. And then, we very conservatively sum any of the potential risks from anything that's detected. And, the EPA methods, those detection limits are very low, so that, if you're detecting anything at those very low concentrations, then, it's sufficient for me to do any kind of evaluation.
Okay, so because certainly there's a safety input and human safety. We're certainly looking for also safety or maintaining the ecological integrity as best we can of the wetlands and the life around that. For a compound class such as phthalates, is that also true, what you just stated about human safety, that they aren't all equal, that one needs to look at them individually, and that even if they're all below the detection level, that the total phthalate level does not impact the wetland and the wildlife around it?
Yeah.
See what I'm, yes, I'm a little concerned about, you can have everything that's just a little bit below, and I recognize there are very low detection limits, but I also am aware that there, as we learn more about many of these compounds, that at very low levels, they can cause problems. So that's the gist of what I would seek to understand.
Yeah, I mean, the labs generally, if there's anything detected, even if they see, say, a peak underneath the detection limit, they
Mhm.
will report that as a J level. So if there's anything in there, typically the lab will report it, even if it's below the detection limit.
Okay.
So generally, if it's not detected and these detection limits are truly, they're sufficiently low enough, it's usually not there. Because as I said, if there's a concentration detected lower than the detection limit, the lab will typically report it with a J level as an estimated level.
Okay.
So we do, in fact, see concentrations of, say, phthalates or pHs below the detection limit, and the lab will report that.
Okay. And then that, in terms of your risk assessment or something that does come back as you know, at the J level, you just note that, or is, because I think that would be kind of, how would you assess the risk on that?
Well, I can still assess the risk on a very low concentration. It's just going to cause less risk, right? Less potential risk because it's less of a concentration.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments from the commission? Okay. Any public comment? Oh, I'm sorry. There's no, we've already closed the hearing, so I think that's correct. So.
It's open, the hearing's open.
Oh, it is open.
No, we're not closed.
Okay. Any public comment? Okay. Hearing none. I think we have an order of conditions. Do we have someone to make a motion for that?
I make a motion to close and issue DEP file number 137-1545 with findings A, B, C, D, and special conditions 21 through, I think it's 58 or something. No, it's more than that.
66 maybe?
66.
Thank you, Greg. Got a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nick. And the vote, Judy?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you for sitting through a long meeting this evening, and appreciate your closing answers and appreciate the long process and sticking with us. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Good luck.
Certificates of compliance, Delia?
So this is a final certificate of compliance for 59 Walden Street, which is the TD Bank. They had a handicapped accessibility and repaving project that was done, I think, in 2007. They were issued a partial. They needed some monitoring of invasives. I will say that there are some invasives that are still on the site. The property is being sold. So I think that any re-emerging invasives can be handled through the new project that is going to come forth in front of the commission. So I would recommend this is ready to go.
Okay. Delia, remind me, vote on COCs? Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
No comment. I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for a DEP file number 137-884, 59 Walden Street.
Second.
Thanks, Judy. And the vote, Nick?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. And
I'll make a
lastly,
motion to adjourn.
Oh, no.
Okay.
One more.
Are we
Oh, we
skipping
have one more?
One more.
We
Oh, I
have one
didn't know
more
Mhm.
Battle Road
have-
Connector Trail. Greg's jumping the gun.
Oh, I'm always jumping the gun.
I thought it looked great. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
Two. Sorry, it's not it. I'm having, okay, so the Thora Farm Trust has for probably since 2013 proposed a connection from Miriam's Corner, the Battle Road Trail that goes obviously from Concord to Lexington. They've proposed a connection that basically just goes straight north through the Elm Brook watershed, crossing Elm Brook and connecting into the Thoreau Birthhouse. And they would like to do this because it would bring, you know, good visitorship to the Thoreau Birthhouse. And there's values that are intrinsic to trail connections from our standpoint, and also regional trail connections that would link into Bedford. So they've requested that the commission provide a letter of support. It's a little questionable whether it's appropriate for the commission to provide that letter of support. You will be required to issue a permit because it is about 4/5 of a mile of trail through wetlands. So the Trails Committee they have issued a letter of support. I don't know whether the select board has or not. I know they've been requested to provide this, but it's being asked of you to consider this as something that you would consider for, you know, supporting. So I'm going to try again to share my screen to show where this goes.
Yeah, Nick.
Give me a minute.
I mean, we could at least say that we would support something about supporting the connection to trails. That's something it's within our, it's within our values. That's all.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, but I think there is, I didn't think we were going to bring this up because I think we are in a sticky wicket if we make a determination, recommend something that's going to come in front of us.
Yeah, it's
I think it's problematic for us to issue any letter in support of this. It's a similar situation. We couldn't tell that fellow that we're probably going to be in favor of him taking down a few more trees. I think we have to see the proposal and vote on it. I could not support a letter that I was going to sit on the dessert. I don't see how we can do that.
No, I would agree. It's just a natural point of conflict in that we don't know all the details.
Just if it helps all, this is Jane. It has not come to the select board yet.
Thank you, Jane.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and so the letter of support would be, what is this because it does need to be approved by the select board, Jane?
There's town land involved.
Okay.
So
right.
So the trail crosses select board land. It goes from the Thoreau Birthhouse down to essentially what is it there? Lexington Road. So it crosses private property that we have a trail easement to allow this trail to occur. That's Elmbrook Lane. And then it goes through select board lands, conservation lands, national park land back onto town land. And, you know, so it's all on public lands. And that's why they're looking for, you know, some sort of approval, is because it's crossing so many public properties that they just want some acknowledgement that this is something that the town accepts. As I said, the Trails Committee has supported this. Jane, I can forward you the letter that they're requesting, or just ask them to send that to you.
I'd love to see it. That would be helpful, and I'll usher it if it.
Yeah.
It may have to Linda, and I just wouldn't have seen it yet, but I can certainly, move it forward.
Awesome.
I think Nick's point is well taken, though. I think we can be certainly generally supportive of the trail activity and stuff, but I
Just in
think
terms of our support of trails and conservation, that's all.
But I think there's that inherent conflict that until we see the plans and the specifics.
Is there funding for this? Is there any? It seems like this could be expensive.
So that's the thing, Nick, is that, you know, so they're looking for support before they go for funding. So no, they don't have any funding yet, but I think I can relay to them that the NRC, and let's craft something. The NRC is generally supportive of this effort, but
You could put a qualification in it, like, you know, assuming that it's, you know, conforms to whatever the regulatory requirements are.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
subject to review and as you say, conformance to, and you know, probably the devil's in the details ultimately, but it seems like a good project.
Yeah. Why wouldn't just the Rails committees support? Because they're not a regulatory body.
What's
And
that?
Why not just the Trails Committee let us support be sufficient? Because they're not a regulatory body, whereas we are the regulatory body.
I mean, we could support the goals and point out explicitly that we have a requirement, you know, that we have an obligation to review from a regulatory standpoint. Now, I think you can make both statements and they're both true.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And so Judy, to your point, the Trails Committee has made that statement.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there was anything in the open space plan or the long range plan under natural resources that we could point them towards that would be supportive for this. I just don't remember if there was anything in there around those areas.
I don't think that there is.
Okay.
But that would have been good if there was, but you know.
Yeah, I don't remember the details on that portion of town.
Right. Nick, what was your point?
The point was we can support the goals of what they're doing, of what they would like to do, but still point out that we have a regulatory responsibility and the project would be reviewed according to the normal standards.
Right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is send them a letter tomorrow and just, I'll copy you on it, obviously, just to say that the commission is not able to provide a letter of support given the conflict of interest with the permits that they have to issue. And we support, the commission supports the project as it is proposed.
We support the goals. We support their intent.
Yeah.
We support their goals.
Okay.
But at the same time,
Okay.
we have a regulatory responsibility we have to discharge as part of the review.
Okay, that's, thank you. That's much more clear. Thank you. Great, thanks.
Okay. All right, Greg.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
You're up.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, the vote, Greg,
Aye.
Dick,
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
I as well. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.